this is Kevin, and welcome back to our next video on our K series of builds from Estes Rockets. Today we're going to be building the K-4 Astron Streak. This is a little bit reminiscent of what we did earlier on with the Orange Bullet and the Scout. It's a featherlight, or you could also call it a tumble recovery system, whereas the motor is ejected out, although the Scout didn't eject out, but the Orange Bullet did. But once the engine is ejected out, the rocket will go into a tumble, or possibly just like a belly flop landing into the ground, but very lightweight and no damage. What's unique about this is you can kind of see it. We'll show you when we do the inventory. But the tube is made of a mylar plastic. It's not cardboard. Interesting design, but that brings a little bit of element of discussion when it comes to how do you glue things to the plastic. We'll show you how we do that. It's very interesting how we are going to attach the fins to the plastic body. Designed by Vern back in the early 60s. I believe it came out in the 62 catalog for the first appearance. And the Streak was, again, K4, and then when it was re-released, it was the 1204. Very straightforward, simple model. We're going to get this built up and build it here in a bit. Let's open it up and do a quick inventory. Okay, on the bench, we've got the K4 Astron Streak. Now, again, look at how small this rocket is, and it can go up to a C6-7. Can you imagine? Flights over 2,000 feet on a Pee-wee rocket. That's only this tall. That is insane. You better have clear skies and good eyes. So let's go ahead and get this opened up and start working on the Astron Streak. Again, this is a very reminiscent kit of our earlier Featherlight recovery models like the Orange Bullet. And similar to the Astron Scout, although this ejects the motor like the Bullet does. But what makes this unique is the construction materials. The actual body tube is not your standard cardboard. Let's go and get everything out of the bag. We'll do a quick inventory on everything. Okay, we'll set that right there. All right, not a whole lot to it. Very simple. Whoa, got parts coming out here. Very simple design. In fact, there is our parts. We'll put that up here in the corner, and we'll just go through everything. Letter A is going to be our plastic body tube. Clear plastic. No spiral lines, so we don't have to worry about that for once. Letter B is going to be our little nose cone. It's like a little stubby, almost looks like the front end of a bullet, doesn't it? But that's our stubby little nose cone. That's actually a BNC 10A, if you're curious. And our balsa sheets. Now, the original kit would have come with sheets of balsa, and you would have had to trace these out from the little plans that they give you here. But fortunately, Semrock, which, again, if you guys have never, if you're interested in cloning, go to erockets.biz. They're the manufacturers and distributors of all Semrock kits now, and they have parts for just about anything and everything, current, modern, or even vintage rockets. And that's where I was able to get these laser cut kits for the Estes Streak out of 1/16 inch balsa. Comes with 3 fins, and that leads us right into letter C, which are the balsa sheets that are pre-cut into fins. So we got those 3 there. And then letter D is going to be a sheet of reinforcing paper. That's this little guy right here. We'll talk more about that here when it comes to building, but this is a very unique part right there. Letter E is going to be our launch lug. Standard launch lug right there. Was that an inch long? 1.25 inches. And letter F are our tape discs. Now, that is something that I omitted. I'm not going to do it, and I'll tell you why when we do it. There's a way of gluing this in, and they use tape strips. We're going to forego that, and I'm just going to be gluing this in with standard, probably epoxy. But we'll get to that when we get to it. So that was letter F. That is it. That's it. That's all there is to it. It's a very simple kit. So let me clear the board. And now a couple things I'm going to do ahead of time. I'm going to prep the balsa fins. I'm going to be sheeting them with some polystyrene sheets. Let me see if I can grab a sheet here and show you. Now you can, and there's nothing wrong with applying balsa sealer, sanding it down, primering it, sanding it down, primering it, sanding it down until it's like glass. Or you can just do like I do. I don't even really do anything to the fins. Straight out of the bag, I will glue them with 3M. See if I've got it here. 3M Super 77 Super Strength Spray Adhesive. This will attach the balsa to the styrene sheet, and then you just have to cut it out and you're done. It's that simple. So I'm going to be doing that off camera to get that ready. I'll probably be primering and sanding the nose cone to get that ready as well. So let's clear the board and we will get right into the production of the K-4 Astron Streak. Okay, I just wanted to demonstrate how I do the fins. I've got 2 of the fins. Yes, there are 3. However, I'm going to have to utilize 3 strips, and I can only do 1 and 1 and then 1 here. But I'm going to wait till one of these is cut so I can flip it over. And anyway, 3 strips for the 3 fins. But I've gone ahead and painted, sprayed this down with the 3M 77 spray adhesive. And you just want to give it a few minutes to tack up a little bit. And then take your fins, and really the only prep is just blowing the dust off of them. Done. And then I'm just going to lay it on the plastic sheet like that. And it's really that simple. And then we'll take our second one and we'll just fit it into position. There, just like that. Okay, strip did stick a little bit to the bench because of a little bit of overspray that seeped over to the other side, but there we go. Okay, now I can feel a little bit of roughness here, so what we can do is just take a little bit of, let me get some isopropyl alcohol here and just spray it onto a paper towel, and then we can just wipe that adhesive right off the plastic. Just like that. This also will help press the wood into the plastic a little bit better. But there we go, perfectly smooth. Now we can go ahead and take a sharp X-Acto blade, and just using the fin itself as our guide, just lay the knife blade up against the fin and pull it down. It may take a couple strokes. There you go. Let's see, let's separate the two. You can also use a single edge razor blade if that's preferable for you. There. Just be careful you don't do what I did right now and split into the wood. You definitely don't want to take any of the balsa off. And this will all get sanded down before any gluing anyhow, but we do want to be careful about gouging into the wood. So let's be a little more careful here. There we go. Beautiful. I will continue this one, but now this fin is complete. You can see, nice clean surface. And once we get the other side sheeted, we can then sand on some sandpaper, get the little notches down that part of the pre-punch process, and get these all sanded down smooth. So I'm going to finish off this one, get these glued, get the third one going, and get all of these sheeted and ready to go. Okay, before we get too far into the body portion of the build, which I've got sitting right here, I want to finish up the fins. 2 of them are done, and the third one, as you can see right here, it's sheeted, everything's ready to go, cut to fit. However, we need to round the leading edges, not only the leading edge, the tip edge, the base edge, and this inner edge. Everything but the root, basically. And what I've found easiest way to do it is to just take some flat sandpaper, and let's just round off the corners first. That kind of breaks down the corner, makes it easier. And then once we get that, a couple more. then we can take my sanding block with the rounded edge into it, and we can clean it up and see how it kind of shaved off that tip, and it gives us a roundness to our leading edge. It'll help shape that form of the balsa. Nice. And then we just go out to the other edges. Okay, well, same thing. Kind of draw that off. And then round our edge. Clean that up. A little bit here. And our inner edge, which is right here. Let me show you how it kind of scrapes it off in that round portion here. Look at that. Nice, clean scrape. And we'll just kind of burnish it in a little bit. There we go. So now we got 3 fins ready to go. I'll get this out of the way. We'll get the body tube out and we'll prepare it for gluing the fins on. Okay, now we're going to start preparing the body tube for attaching the fins and the nose cone. We need to take this piece of, basically it's decal paper, and we're going to take it and wrap it around the base of one end. We'll do this base here. And the way I would like to prefer doing this is, I've also got my fin guide here. We'll set that aside for now. But I'm going to peel back a little bit of this decal. And I've already cleaned off the tube. You want to make sure it's free of dust and any debris. But let's go ahead and get this. Let me help separate this here a little bit. Here, I'll just do this. Here we go. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to peel the whole thing off. I'm going to peel back a little bit and trim it like that. Okay, I'm going to seal it back down. Let's do a little bit on this side as well. And we'll trim that off. Okay, now we can safely wrap this around our tube without it sticking just yet. So I'm going to tube flat to the surface. I'm going to wrap this flat to the surface. Keeping it flat, we're going to roll it, keeping it tight until that sticky part makes contact and sticks. There. Now we've got adhesion in the perfect spot. Okay. Now we can come back to this, peel it back to the point where we trimmed it, and slowly kind of burnish it down with our thumb as we roll it. And it came out perfect. Awesome. Okay, now, let me toss this out of the way. We want to take our guide, and because there is a little bit of a lip right here, and I don't want to risk damaging it by trimming it or anything, I'm going to use that seam line as one of the edges of the fins. So when I wrap this, I'm going to line that on that seam line. So let me get just a small strip of masking tape. We'll wrap our guide first. Just well, that doesn't quite it, does it? Tell you what, since this is a BT30, I'm going to get my other guide. Let's see if this matches. This is one that I've used on previous builds. And if it doesn't, I'll show you how we make one. Okay, because the one that I had printed does not fit around the tube, we're going to make up our own fin spacing guide. Took a small strip of plain notepad paper. One edge is straight, the other one's a little jaggedy from the cut. That was deliberate, that way I know which end is which. We're going to use this as our alignment edge, but we need to measure it first. So first thing I'm going to do is just wrap this around, and right where the paper starts to overlap itself, right here, I'm going to make a small mark. Okay, right there. Now, on this side of the mark, I'm going to make X's so I know this is the overlap area, okay? So now we want to take a ruler and measure, and it's easier to do this in millimeters because you can divide easier that way. So I'm going to measure how many millimeters this is. I've got 60 millimeters. So that's going to be 60 millimeters. Divide 60 by 3. Easy, right? 20. So every 20, I want to make a mark. 20 and 40. Okay. Easy. Let me mark that line there again. Okay, so we have 20, 40, and 60. Now we can come back to our tube. Okay, wrap this up. Overlap our overlap area, which is right there. Perfect. Small piece of masking tape. Now remember, we're going to make one of the fin marks up against that seam line from the decal paper. So I'm going to line that up just... Let's use a measurement here. Let's take one fin. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to transfer that mark to the tube right there, and I'll do the other two like that. Okay, now we can remove our guide like so. Now I'm going to take a pencil because I don't want to do this in... Find my pencil here. I don't want to do this in ink because it can bleed when we start painting and gluing. So now I'm going to take my fin alignment guide, or my tube alignment guide. What is this called? The tube marking guide. That's it. And I'm just going to line this up on the dot, take my pencil and extend that line up the tube. There we go. Now we've got the tube perfectly marked for the 3 fins. Okay, because the next step would actually be to glue our nose cone into the body tube. The only problem I have with that is, one, this is perfectly smooth. It's ready for paint. This side is perfectly not smooth and ready for paint. It needs to be sealed, sanded, sanded, and primed, and then probably sanded some more. Anyway, I need to build up this a little bit, and it's already a little uneven. You can feel the edge with your fingernail up against the plastic. So I want to build this cone up first with some primer, get it sealed and smoothed out. Then we can glue it into the tube, and then we can wet sand everything so it just basically unifies as one solid piece. I wanted to work on that before we glue the fins on. So let me go ahead and take this off separately. I'm going to sand, prime this to get a little beefed up a little bit to more match the body tube. Once we get that done, we'll come back, we'll glue it on, then we can get the fins glued on, primed and sanded, and we're almost done with building the kit. It's actually a pretty quick one, so I'll be right back when this is ready to go. Okay, now we're going to glue the nose cone onto the plastic tube, and as you can see, a lot of primer has been added, which is good because it built up the thickness to where it's almost identical to the plastic tube now. I would sand it, prime it, sand it, prime it, and it's pretty smooth. It's almost perfect. I think when we start priming the whole thing and get this wet sanded down, we'll be perfect. So, but we do want to glue this in. Now, whenever I do two dissimilar materials, I like to use epoxy. It's just a good mixture that'll combine just about anything. But when we also want to add the glue, I've already got my 15-minute epoxy mixed up here, but we want to add the glue to the inside of the tube as opposed to on the outside here on the shoulder, because if we put it on the shoulder, as we push this in, it's going to squeegee the glue up and out and make a mess of things. But if we put it on the inside, it's going to force that glue downward. Now, we got to keep in mind though, this is also our engine block, so we don't want the glue interfering with where the engine's going to slide up. So we need to be very cautious and use minimal amount of glue. I'm just going to put a very thin bead around the lip right here. Not much at all, because I really don't want any glue pushed down below the shoulder of the nose cone. Okay. So I'm just running a thin layer. There. That's all I want. We'll put the nose cone in, and we'll twist it as we go. There. Perfect. No seepage down below. I do see a little bit of a gloss on the nose cone, showing that we've got full coverage. That very thin, minuscule amount of epoxy is all that it took. So we're just going to let that cure and dry, and then we'll come down and we'll sand that smooth, just dry sanding it. I may wet sand it, we'll see. And then we'll be ready to glue the fins on, and then we're down to paint. We'll be right back. Okay, now we're ready to glue the fins on. As you can see, I've got the nose cone not only glued in, primed, sanded, and I went ahead and put some spot putty, some of the glazing putty that 3M makes, up against that joint to help fill it in. I wet sanded from there, but that'll get further covered with more layers of primer once we get the fins and launch lug glued on. So we're gonna do the fins right now. Got all 3 fins ready to go. I've got my pencil, and you'll see why that's important. But what I like to do is I glue all 3 fins on at the same time, and I'll show you how I do that. So first thing we want to do is we want to lay a bead of wood glue right down our root edge of the fin. And smear that with your finger. Wipe off the excess. Come to your fin, or to your rocket body, and we're going to use those reference lines that we had earlier. And I'm just going to lay this, the bottom of the root, right at the bottom of the tube. Lay it up against our reference line. Roll it just a little bit to spread the glue, and remove it. Now we're going to let that sit and tack up. And while we wait for that, we can do the next fin. Okay, fin number 2. Lay it in position. Okay, roll it just a little bit to spread the glue, and set it down. And we'll go to fin number 3. And do the same thing with it. Okay, now we go back to fin number 1, which has been tacked up and ready, and we can lay it in position permanently. Okay, press it in. Okay, I'm going to align it go. Okay, we'll go to fin number, whoop, wasn't quite ready yet. Okay. Okay, it's holding now. Okay, we'll go to fin number 2. Visually check it, align it. And we'll go to fin number 3. Okay, that looks good. And we'll do a vertical test, stand it up and ensure that it is spinning vertically, rotate it. And what that does is it ensures that all the fins are equidistant from the base of the tube. So there we've got it. Okay, still looking good. All right, we're gonna go ahead and let it sit right like that, let it dry. We'll come back, glue in our launch lug, and then do some fillets. Okay, the fillets are done. Now we're just going to apply 2 fillets to the launch lug. And we're about done with this thing. Let's go ahead and lay the fillet in here. A little bit thicker fillet because you got to fill in that crevice that's under the lug. Okay, nice. And we'll do the one up into the fin. This one I'm going to kind of roll it forward a little bit. And then back. Nice. Okay, so the rocket is done for all intents and purposes. We're just going to let that fillet set up on the launch lug. I'm going to go ahead and take it out, prime it, sand it, and paint it, and I'll come in when we're all done and we'll do a final recap on the K-4 streak. Okay, well, this brings us to the conclusion of the K-4 streak. As you can see, the painting is all done. It's been curing for a few days now. And a lot of you ask, what paints do you use? Instead of just telling you, I thought I'd show you. I do primer it, however, with Rust-Oleum primer, just because it's the cheapest I can find at the moment. And it lays down nicely, and then I wet sand that anyways. But I've been using Behr Premium Gloss. This is the black and the white that I've used on the streak to mimic the face card. Pretty straightforward paint design, just a mask off for the nose cone and for the fins. And from what I could gather, the pictures show that the launch lug was also painted black, so I masked around that as well. Not much to it, pretty straightforward. Mylar plastic tube. It's still pretty slick on the inside, which means the motor will more than likely eject without any issue. But yeah, that's it. I think it's a beautiful little design. They say to put up to a C6-7 in this. Wow. I mean, that's going to be incredibly high. They do claim over 2,000 feet. If you're going to do 2,000 feet, you might want to consider maybe a fluorescent color. Maybe pack some colored powder up in the nose, so on ejection, you get a puff of pink or whatever powder you can find. But yeah, it's a fun little rocket. It's not going to take up a lot of space on the shelf. But I want to pay homage to the K series. So here we are, K4. We'll continue down the line. I got K5 through K59 in the works. So we'll get to those next. So I want to thank everybody for watching. And if you build one, have fun with it. Enjoy it. It's a simple little build. Paint it as you like. I just wanted to mimic the original. So with that, everybody, thanks for watching. God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.